Come on in, everybody, to my review of Married at First Sight at season 15, episode 11. And this is going to be for Lindy and Miguel. I've done videos on all the other couples. You can check those out. There'll be links at the end of this video. And I plan on doing the after party as well. So please check out that video. But y'all, we can celebrate. We got our first I love you of the season from Miguel to Lindy. Well, wait a minute. Is it really the first I love you? I guess we have to say it is because emphatically he did say I love you. But if they're showing us these episodes or scenes in the order they happen, Nate, I guess, was the first one to sort of start expressing and using the actual love word in some ways. But I knew Miguel wasn't going to be upstage. That's why I think it happened in this occurrence. Because one thing I've seen with Miguel and Lindy, they like to compete with Stasha and Nate. I'm going to tell you, I've already figured that out from back at that mariachi dinner and everything else. Somehow or another, when it came to who was going to have sex first, a bunch of things, somehow or another, I don't know what Miguel and Lindy, well, why they put themselves in that position, but there's a little bit of competition between them. I think it's more so Miguel and Lindy on Nate and Stasha, and that's why they were always calling other people fake. But whatever, no big deal. But we got our first I love you from Miguel. He says, I'm going first, because he knew that if somebody tells their wife that they love them before he told Lindy, she was going to have a problem. Lindy likes to be a first. She would have said, wait a minute, they got an I love you over there. I better get an I love you. Lindy knows how to ask for what she wants. And it's a good thing that Miguel is a giver and an accommodator, because Lindy lays down the law and then Miguel comes around and he delivers. And he's happy about doing it. That's what's important. He's not feeling tortured over it. He's happy about doing it. And I'm going to pat myself on the back for one thing about Miguel. I said that Miguel was going to like the challenge that Lindy presents. Because one thing I've always said is Miguel needs intellectual stimulation. And Lindy's multiple personalities provide him some stimulation, because he's got to constantly figure out this woman. What's she going to do next? He had mentioned, I don't know if it was this episode or last episode, because remember, I had to watch 4 hours straight. So I don't know if I'm talking about this episode or last episode. But he mentioned how he found this comfort in her unpredictability, right? Most people like predictability. He said he found it comforting in her unpredictability, that she's consistently inconsistent, and he enjoyed that. And what he was saying is, she's a new problem, a new challenge every single day, and I like it because she keeps me on my toes and she keeps me thinking. Other people who don't want to be doing all these gymnastics and mental gymnastics, they will find Lindy exhausting. And Miguel is actually finding it interesting. I would be surprised if Miguel is still doing Dungeons and Dragons, because I believe that Dungeons and Dragons was a place for him to have like some creative outlet and way to maximize his thinking. When I bet you now, Lindy is his Dungeons and Dragons, because Lindy keeps Miguel guessing, keeps Miguel on his toes, and it keeps Miguel constantly thinking. Lindy has also said she's less anxious. She's biting her nails less, because what is happening is she's having to make less decisions because Miguel has taken over that load. Like I told you with Lindy, Lindy gets frazzled with decision making and lots of things. That's why she can't work for 20 hours. She can't decide what to do. And what she's able to do is she's able to pass that load on to Miguel. So now not only is she working part-time at her regular job as a doctor, she's working part-time in thinking, because Miguel the thinker has taken over that department for her. He's covering her and he's thinking for her. Just like when they were on that boat ride and she was cold, she brought the wrong jacket. Miguel was smart enough to bring the right jacket to the sailing boat. And guess what he did? He gave his coat to Lindy. Lindy didn't think ahead, because like I tell you, Lindy doesn't think well. She doesn't think well at all. But Miguel picks up the slack in the thinking area, and he's able to share his abundance with Lindy because Lindy needs help. One of the things that Lindy said, that this has been one of the most healthiest relationships she's been in. And one of the things she talked about was because in past relationships, she was allowed to fly off the handle and say whatever she wanted to say. I think the difference in what Miguel is saying to her, and he talks to her in a very rational way. Miguel doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't yell. He doesn't scream. He tells her simply things like, I don't like this new Lindy. He says very simple statements. I don't like this. I'm not going to put up with this. And Lindy is able now to maybe regulate herself a little bit more than what she did in the past. Before, she didn't have an incentive, so she would just fly off the handle, and either the men had to accept it or they didn't. But Miguel says, I'm not going to accept this. And one thing that Lindy knows in the back of her head is that Miguel will walk out on her. He knows it. She knows it. And I know it too. So Lindy knows that she needs to make some changes if she wants to keep Miguel around. And that's becoming her incentive to be different in this relationship, when in past relationships, she didn't try to regulate herself at all. She told everybody, you deal with it. Give me some snacks. Do this. Like I've been talking about in all my other videos with all these other couples. When problems arise with you and any one other person, you always have to ask yourself, what can you do differently? And Lindy is admitting that in past relationships, even with people, when she's frazzled, she puts all the work on other people to do the work. But Miguel is holding her accountable and saying, I'm not doing all the work. You're going to do some work too. But he is still carrying a load. He's actually carrying the weight of the relationship. Just like I said with Nate and Stasha carrying the load, Kristen was carrying the load with Mitch. Partners should only have to carry loads in certain arenas until the other mate catches up. It shouldn't be a lifelong thing. So Lindy has to make progress because she could wear out Miguel. Right now he has the extra capacity, but she could wear him out. So I like the fact that Lindy is starting to recognize that she too has work to do. What Lindy is saying, when she was saying she has to learn how to not be so defensive at things, when Miguel said something about, cooking, the onions with the sauteed, those types of things, it triggers Lindy into sort of being controlled. And so before, I guess she would say, she would have a negative reaction, and she's got to learn how not to be so defensive. I feel better about these two. I was getting afraid for them because I didn't know if Lindy could make the progress she was going to need to make in order to give Miguel the wiggle room and security he would need. But I like the changes that she's making. I still believe that Miguel will continually have to carry the majority of the load. That's okay, because I think it's a role that he relishes and he enjoys. And I do think he is really in love with Lindy. I think that he thinks she's beautiful, and I think he's enamored that he has been able to marry a beautiful woman. And I think that is also playing a role in this. If Lindy was ugly, Miguel wouldn't be doing all this, y'all. We know it. He would not be doing all this work. But I'm happy that these two are finding their footing and they're working out. I'm happy that it looks like I will be wrong about these two. I think my very first video, I thought these two will not make it. I'm happy to see that I am becoming wrong. I love it when I'm wrong about a breakup because I really love couples to try and work it out. So I'm happy to see that some of the things that I did predict were wrong. And although some of the things are right, enough of what I said was wrong that these two are actually having a chance to make it. I'm enjoying that. I love the fact that he said he loved her and she loved him. And hopefully they will continue this and they'll be able to make it through whatever hiccups may come their way. But that's it, y'all. What do you think about this episode and with these two? Are you happy to see them working it out? And did you predict this? And I'll talk to you later. Bye.